So thank you for talking to me, Alba. So you won the BRIO Award in which year?
2003.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about like, what you did with the funds and how it helped you?
Well, I purchased a camera, a digital camera for filming stop motion because I won the BRIO because I was doing stop motion animation. And now I'm moving back to stop motion. I'm in the process of making another film. But throughout those 8 years from 2003 where I won the BRIO, I started designing my dolls, and that helped me with character storytelling. And this is going to propel the animation that I'm going to make up now.
Okay. So have you won any other awards through
I was nominated for the Student Academy Award too.
Okay.
At that time, I didn't have any funds, so I couldn't go to California and receive the prize. So yes, that is what happens to artists, especially artists that are in poor at that moment in time. And now that I'm in the moment in time that I can actually make a film and I can develop it in a so professional stage, I can focus more, and now I can make it. Now I can make it, and I just need more like sponsors for certain specifics, like a 3D printer, because this time I want to focus on gestures.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so what you're doing right now, I know that you have that workshop, right?
I have a workshop, yes, with the BRIO actually, March the 16th. I'm going to be creating a troll face with other people, teaching how to sculpt a troll. And I also have the exhibit, the horror fantasy show, and my dolls will be there. Like some of my pieces, like Sajid and Krampus, which are horror. They're more like the Krampus is Germanic folklore, and that is one of my best pieces that I would like people to see.
Well, that's interesting. So, I mean, like you said, so there's a few horror pieces. So, tell me about how that works into what you did, the idea of fear.
Well, fantasy incorporates many elements. It can be good fantasy of, it can be horror, it can be fantasy of enchantment. I like to have variety in fantasy. Horror and science fiction and the hobby kind of fantasy. And I like to, when I create a doll, I focus on, like, say, a story. For example, this is a mole professor, and this is like the Beauty and the Beast style, but it's my style. And I recreate stories of the already mythological stories done. For example, the Krampus is he goes along with Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus in Germany and Austria. So when Santa Claus visits the children and give presents, if the children are bad, then he gives the Krampus to them, and the Krampus eat them or things like that. So it's teaching what is good and what is bad, and it becomes a horror story. It's like also like Snow White on the Seventh Dwarf, and she doesn't only, like in the fairy tales like Disney, she just wake up and the prince is there, whatever. No, in reality she gets killed in the story, in the real story. So it's like the Brothers Grimm stories, like that.
Okay, great. So how do you combine your two passions, like the animation part and this? Like what?
Well, with animation, everything is so slow. For example, for 4 minutes, 4 seconds actually, 4 seconds of animation, it will take me from 9 p.m. to the next day 7 o'clock a.m. for 4 seconds of animation. So when in between the film and my next exhibit, that is gonna be a solo exhibit, I will be doing that. I will be working. Instant gratification for me is to make this doll. It takes me probably 4 to 5 days to make a doll. That's instant gratification, but the long-term project will be the stop motion. So I have to use a lot of time on how to develop the replacement faces, because they're going to have a lot of gestures, happiness, surprise anger. I need to have all these replacement heads. Probably it's gonna be like 100 or 200 replacement heads for this film, or maybe more, for expressions. Then I have to make the body armature first. We have to design an armature made out of metal. Then we have to create silicone, make the silicone around it so the whole body is gonna be movable. Then I have to make the hair. We're gonna pull in. I'm gonna inject hair so the hair can move. Then I have to make movable eyes and eye lashes and all that. So the whole process. Then I have to make the props, and we're gonna shoot in green screen so we can add some effects. So the whole world is gonna take a long time. So I need, between that film, I need to have instant gratification. Making a doll make me let that urge go of creating, because you get very bored doing animation alone. What I do is, like, I make the dolls during the film, and that inspires me. It gives me more ideas for the film, and also the film is gonna take time, because I have to meticulously design the sets, design the storyboard, design the characters, design the movement, and that is choreography. You have to be an actor to animate these characters, and you have to be a director to recreate the world you want. So it's a lot of hats that I have to put in. The only thing that I cannot do is the composing the music. I don't know about music, so I'm gonna hire somebody that will do that for me.
How do you get the names for your because that's amazing. Sindri?
Well, Sindri, that one is the dwarf that is the exhibit right now. Sindri, well, it came out, well, usually when I love The Hobbit, I love The Lord of the Rings, which I just saw it this week in The Hobbit. And you get, I get most of the names from movies, or similar intonations, like how the Elvish names or the dwarfs' names are in history, and I do a research on that. This one is Glaberwood, is because part of the etymology of Glaberwood is I think it's in German. It is the name of the mole. So we use also Latin names that reflects the animal or that we're using. These ones are, of course, the Beauty and the Beast. There's nothing new about it. Candide. It was inspired by Candide, a story I read about a fairy, and it just looked just like that. And this one is a healer, so everybody have their names. Don't ask me now, because I have so many babies. I don't remember all of them. If I made $150, I don't remember all of them. That's why I make books about them. For example, this is one of the latest books that I'm making. This is gonna be at the exhibit also, and it shows. I talk a little bit about me, and I also have the making of, for example, this character. I have pictures of the process, and this one, like Sindri, the dwarf, with the Mr. Fluffy the troll. And Sajide is one of my favorites. I don't know if you have seen it. Sajide, based on Michael Ende's The Never-Ending Story series.
Yeah.
She's an evil woman, but this is one of my best dolls. Actually, I am so in love with this character, and this is what people can expect. The quality that they can expect from my work.
So I mean, I know that you make customized dolls too for people.
Yes.
So tell me about some more interesting things, requests you've gotten, and ones you've enjoyed doing the most.
Well, a lot of my requests are portraits. People want to be made as a doll. For example, they want to be a fawn. For example, I make the person as a fawn using their faces and their expressions. I take pictures, and then I recreate the body as a fawn or as a fairy. Somebody asked me to make the Monsters doll, Eddie Monsters doll.
I saw that one.
And I made it for this couple because he wanted this doll since he was a kid. And he couldn't get it. It wasn't on sale at that time, because at that time those toys were made like that. Not like now that they made a movie and there's the doll right in Kmart or right in Toys R Us. No, at that time this kind of marketing wasn't it didn't exist at that moment. So the partner comes to me and he says, this is his dream. Can you make it for me? So I made it. It took me a little while because I was in between projects. And when he saw it, he was transfixed. He was so happy. He was hugging and kissing him. Then I received an email of him in bed with the baby, Wolfie, and on Christmas he had a Christmas hat, and they even gave him the doll a present. This is the kind of I wouldn't say customers, but the people who adopt my dolls, they are special and they have their own dreams, and my dolls give them something that heals inside. They feel healed, they feel happy, and that's what makes my day at the end of the journey.
Yeah. I mean, this is your passion, so what is what is the thing that drives you the most, because every day, just continue, what would you say?
I just want to step out of reality. Reality sometimes is a little bit too ugly.
Yeah. Well, the one Baba Yaga. I saw
Baba Yaga, yes.
He's very menacing. Yeah.
She is a Russian witch, and she is kind of like I would say I think she eats people too.
Looks like she will.
Yes, and that's why I put shrunken heads in. She has one in her hand, and she has some hanging from her belt. Yeah, she's evil. She's evil. And this one, another thing that going back to what inspired me, real skulls inspires me too. This is a real skull of a muskrat.
Okay.
So I purchase bats, I purchase insects, and that I put on the dolls. I don't know, I like to. This is called the Professor Glaber book. So he has his ancient book, and this is a real book from the 1920s. And I like to put things like these buttons, things like that. These are old things. This is old, and this is real. I mean, I try to make the doll be special in every way, every single thing. And he comes with this lantern, and this is an old lantern. So these are the things. I like steampunk. I like this goth thing. I like fantasy, and I try to incorporate it in my artwork. I think what drives my work, like I said, is storytelling.
Yeah.
And reading. When I read about the Lord of the Rings, or I read about the Hobbit, or the Sand series, everything is fantasy. I just want to get lost in a world that is not this one. I want to be able to just move to another realm, and I cannot do it, but I can do it with my imagination.